Okay, so I noticed something kind of odd that doesn't happen a whole lot. A very well liked and popular game that kind of has been forgotten. And I really don't get why. Now, granted, since this game came out, there have been thousands upon thousands of hits that have released and garnered much acclaim. But the odd thing is, there's a lot of classic games that got great reviews, well loved, back from '93 that people still talk about today. But for some reason, no one talks about Alien vs. Predator 2 anymore. And when it came out, it got pretty decent reviews, and people loved it. And so I kind of just wanted to remind people of this game. And of course, I'm going to get into it now. But, I mean, just to establish what I mean by this game was well loved, this game has gone on to a couple of greatest horror video games of all time lists. I shit you not, I found them. Alright? Now, these aren't like IGN or GameStop or Spot. I can never remember which one's which. Spot. I mean, not any of those, but I have seen like 20 greatest horror video games of all time, and I've seen this game on some of those lists. I've even seen one list, not mine, obviously, where this was number one. Beating out Silent Hill 2, and, well, I get Resident Evil, but, I mean, beating out a lot of other legitimate horror games. Now, this was never trying to be, like, the greatest horror game ever. This was just trying to be a fun action game. It had some pretty good horror elements. And so, yeah, this had a lot of love back in the day. Back in the early years of the 2010s, even. But now in 2021, no one ever talks about this. The only place I have been able to find that talks about this is a website called avpgalaxy.net. It's like the largest Alien and Predator fan site on the web that I could find, at least. There's probably some other diehard fans that would say, oh no, there's some much bigger ones over here. Look, I'm just talking about what I found, okay? And even them, they don't really talk about this game, but like once in a great while, like, hey, let's play this old classic game, okay? And it's just kind of baffling to me because this was a truly impressive video game. And this is one of the first video games I ever bought. Owned. Admittedly, that title does go to the Spider-Man 2002 movie tie-in, which I still love, by the way. Regardless of if 5 other games have made it obsolete, it's still a really fun video game. Check it out if you're into movie tie-in video games. But yeah, no, I got it for $9 at Best Buy. And I couldn't play it for a year because my computer didn't have a graphics card. And so I was constantly trying to get a graphics card. But those things are really damn expensive, especially on a 10-year-old's budget. So, yeah. But, yeah. When I played it, I absolutely loved it. And when I played it, I was thinking, wow, this looks amazing. This was back 21 years ago. So, yeah, the graphics are rough. But visually, it does look good. Admittedly, it's rough, but they do look good. And probably the thing that helps the graphics the most is the atmosphere and also the art direction. It was very clear that the developers of this game loved the Alien films because, I mean, there are rooms designed based off of the Nostromo, there are rooms based off of the colony at Hadley's Hope, I think it is. And, I mean, it was very clear that the developers of this game loved the source material with a passion. And so that does help with the visual appeal of this game, the visual quality. Now, this was at a time when they couldn't really do round corners, so shoulders were like pointy, you know, the early days of gaming. But it wasn't as bad as the first Alien vs. Predator game is in terms of pointiness. But with this game, there is actually a lot of content in this game. So essentially, there is a multiplayer mode. I don't know if those are still online though, so I wouldn't count on it. But you get 3 campaigns with this game: an alien, a predator, and a marine. And all 3 are slightly different, with different atmospheres. So clearly the marine campaign, it was obvious they based that the hell off of Aliens. James Cameron, 1986 Aliens film. Maybe I got the date wrong on that. I'm not sure. I'm going to go with it. And it is very satisfying campaign because, I mean, it just screams Aliens. It feels like you're playing that movie almost in this game. And then there's the Predator campaign, and that very much feels like you're playing the Predator in one of the movies. And then there's the Alien campaign, which I found interesting because it did feel a little bit like the first Alien film, but it also had almost an Alien 3 vibe to it, which I thought was an interesting decision for the developers because even though it had a rough development, I kind of feel like the third Alien film is an underappreciated black sheep of the Alien franchise. It's not my favorite, but I appreciate what they were trying to accomplish with that film. And so I thought it was interesting that they kind of had that Alien 3 vibe with the Alien campaign. Now, not all is perfect with this, and the biggest affront to this game is the voice acting. The voice acting's really bad. Like, cringy bad. Now, it's nowhere near as bad as, like, let's say, Resident Evil Revelations. But it's almost there. Now, while the voice acting's really bad, the story is pretty cool in a simplistic kind of way. It's not that convoluted, but I mean, it's kind of simple and works. Basically, there's another planet where Weyland-Yutani has control of. They have facilities there, and of course they're dicking around with alien technology. They finally got it. They're experimenting with it. It gets out of hand, and the entire colony gets overrun with aliens. Except for a small section called I believe it's called the Hive. It's been a couple of years since I played it, but it's basically these pods suspended in the middle of a canyon that are basically these buildings, and it's the last fortified stronghold on this planet for the humans. And that's kind of what the entire story kind of revolves around, and it works. I won't say it's the best story in this entire franchise, but it works, and it works for what it needs to do. Alien campaign, you're trying to save the Queen. They're always trying to save the Queen in Alien campaigns. I don't know why, but it's like they can't think of a more interesting story than that. Marines, it's a lot like Aliens. We lost contact with this colony, we're going to go see what's going on. They land not knowing what's going on. And then the Predator campaign was probably the most interesting because it starts off with a flashback where you did not successfully kill this prey you're hunting, and years later You find out where he is, he's a general now, and you're trying to redeem that mistake of you letting him go. So that was actually kind of really interesting. Now, of course, the coolest thing about the game are the weapons. I mean, especially with the Predator and the Marine. And the Pulse Rifle never gets old. The wrist blades on the Predator, the Smart Disc, the Spear, the Shoulder Cannon, those never get old. The weapons are all really awesome, well balanced, a lot of fun to enjoy. The one issue though, for the Predator and the Marine campaign, some of the weapons you only get on the final 2 levels, which make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Why would you do that? And these weapons are really, really fun, like the rocket launcher, the minigun, the Predator pistol. Those are a lot of fun, and you get them for the last level, which doesn't make sense. That being said, that can be forgiven because this was only released on PC. And something about PC you may not know is that PC games can enjoy cheats. Cheats are a little thing where you pop up a menu, you put in a little code, and if you put in the code right, a lot of times you won't, you can enable a cheat like God mode, where you can't die. No clip, which allows you to move through the level and look all around. There are some cheats for this game that allow you to unlock all the weapons at first, which is really awesome because you can enjoy those later weapons earlier. Other cheats in this game are cheats where you can actually have the alien in the Marine campaign, or the Predator in the Marine campaign in the Predator campaign. And this kind of breaks the game a little bit because sometimes when I start off as the Predator, the Marines are just talking to me like, hey, so do this, do that, and as usual. And it's like, okay, so that's kind of cool. Alien working with Marine, gotta use your imagination. And then they just stop firing at you because they're like, oh wait, that's a Predator. So I've noticed that a couple of times. And the other problem with doing this cheat is that if you like put the Marine in the Alien campaign, the Alien can walk on walls, and there are some paths you can only get out of the room if you walk on walls. Marine can't do that. So unless you use no clip, you're not getting through because it was not designed for a Marine. But again, that's one of the things about cheats, is this game has a lot of them, and there's a lot of fun cheats to use. There's cheats where you can just have enemies pop up, like I feel like fighting a Pred Alien. So let's pop up 5 of those bad boys. Yeah, so that's what the cool thing about PC games is, you can enjoy cheats. And of course this game is 20 years old. So even a throwaway computer you get from some local computer shop that isn't even half as good as a new computer can probably play this on its top settings. So even if you're not a PC gamer, if you have a computer of any kind, you could probably play this game. So, but the other thing worth knowing about this game is it had a really strong modding community. You might still be able to get access to all those. I don't know. One of the strongest modding communities I saw was on GameSpy. That site's no longer up anymore. But I mean, really impressive modding community. There were guys, and if you don't know what a mod is kind of a subtle change that a person can do on a game, or a major change or addition to a game. So, case in point, Doom, the original Doom game, was an open source game, and people modded it so that, like, someone made a Ghostbusters game out of Doom. You just you put in a file, you type in, like, enter Ghostbusters WAD or something like that, and then the Ghostbusters game would play instead of Doom. And so that technically would be considered a mod. I'm sure there's some really technical computer expert that's saying this guy's an idiot, he has no idea what he's talking about. You're absolutely right. I don't know what I'm talking about because I haven't done a lot of mods. But I did with this game, because modding on this game was actually surprisingly easy. You pull up the launcher, there's a little bar at the bottom, you type in the code of your mod that you put in the file, in the game files, and then you hit enter, and that mod would be applied. Usually, there was a couple of mods I could never get to apply, but there were simple mods that just like the Predator hands. One mod made it so that they were covered in blood through the entire game. It was really cool. Simple, but cool. Another mod was all the weapons had lasers on them. Simple, but cool. But I've seen mods where people recreated the Antarctic pyramid level from the Alien vs. Predator film that you could play in. One person made a survival mod where it's a down drop ship and just, yeah, so aliens are going to come attack you, stay alive as long as possible. I mean, some really impressive mods with this game. And if you've ever been interested in modding a video game, changing it, I would actually recommend trying it out with Alien vs. Predator 2 because it was surprisingly simple for me. So, but yeah, so with all that, for some odd reason, people just don't talk about this game anymore. It was a good game, long, lots of fun, great atmosphere, pretty decently scary in a couple of places, and people just don't talk about it anymore. And so, if you're looking for a decent horror action video game that has great atmosphere, you'd like one of these two franchises, I would recommend giving Aliens vs. Predator 2 another chance, because quite frankly, the problems it has are bogged down by all of its pros, and so I highly recommend checking this game out. So my name's Chris with the 11th Hour Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed this review, and that is all.